What's up, reefers? Welcome to Alex Explorer Corals. This is Alex Wilson, and this is my video log where you can learn from my mistakes. So come check it out. Alright, so here's a shot of my coral quarantine system, and I put in one piece of the Australian live rock. That's right. I had the Australian live rock in this little container there for the last 5 months. That's right. So definitely one thing to say about live rock is that it is definitely cannot be overestimated. The impact of live rock, fresh live rock from the ocean, live rock, well, that's relatively fresh from the ocean, that ideally has been cured first, but pretty much the method that I've used in the past originally is I had like a 55 gallon right, and it was 55 gallon reef aquarium. It was the shallow type, standard aquarium, and I got probably 200, well, like 100 pounds of live rock in there, just one solid wall of rock. And just put the whole thing in there, let it cycle out, and and after just a couple months of ugly faces and water changes, it cures, and then really had an instant mature reef, and it was an absolute miracle. Just cannot underestimate and overstate how well that worked, and how well you didn't realize it worked, and it was just kind of because I had some aquariums that I tried to do later on where I did it with dry rock, and then and it was just, or even just a mix, like a little bit of dry rock and a little bit of all live rock and just one or two to seed it. But it's strange, it was not the same experience, and I definitely was like, why is this, why is one has such a good experience and the other one is just completely opposite, horrible, just would ugly phases, and just would not establish. It takes a lot longer, I guess, for it to go through the phases. And so yeah, that's what I just say about that. It's just that it's, and even though I went through that experience, and then when I set up these aquariums, I think I used the mistake of using the quote real reef rock brand, which is in fact just dry rock. So ultimately, it was the same thing where I had dry rock, and then I tried to seed it with the live sand, ocean direct, different live sands, this and that, and then with the corals and small bits of live rock, So definitely a completely different experience, and I think it's good to document the original method. And the original method is you just do a fresh new aquarium, 100% live rock, boom, you put it in there, and then you just have it cycle itself over the months. What's interesting is that I did these, let's come check them out, they're over here. So I put the live rock over here. I put one little piece right there in the 20 gallon quarantine system. However, the rest of it is in here. I pulled the live rock. That's right, it's right here. Australian live rock, here it is. Put it in right here. Now, what I want to say here is that, so if I were to do this again, I would do 100% all live rock and not mess with any of the dry rocks whatsoever. And it's something that's kind of overlooked, I believe, where it's kind of like, because it is, more expensive, well, yeah, it's a lot more expensive, but say it's, I don't know, depending on your size aquarium, say that, whatever it is, say it's $1,000 more, well, yeah, that's a lot. However, if you're putting in, how much are you putting in, if you're putting in thousands in lighting and thousand and, and on your pumps and what have you. And if you decide, oh well, you know, so it seems kind of like it's not necessary. Let's do dry rock or dry rock and then a combination of dry rock and live rock and sedum and stuff. It is just not worth it. Just better off just going with 100% live rock and letting it go through all the cycles in there. Okay, so here's a shot of the Australian live rock right there. And one thing that it's interesting to note is that I had it in my little rock bin here, just with a heater, a pump, and with the Kessel 160 lighting on it, right? And I had it going just like an aquarium. I did a couple water changes like a couple months into it, and then that's it. And then I let it, you know, my original plan was just let it sit. What's up, Yellow Tang? What are you doing, man? You're getting into the video. What we were talking live rock, and I've got Yellow Tang in the picture right here. Okay, so we're talking about live rock. So the original plan was to let it sit 2.5 months in this little quarantine, which was kind of an experiment. It was kind of interesting. However, I ended up having to, it got recontaminated because I had the bin close to where my quarantine system was. And so I accidentally dropped some of the water into where I had my live rock. So that's why I had to reset it for another 2.5 months for the velvet. So anyway, long story short, the 2.5 months ended up being a whole 5 months. So it was, the end effect, it was kind of interesting because it was kind of like an extension of the experiment, right? Where I could leave this Australian live rock just in the bin right there with the lighting on it and everything and see what it did. And so yeah, you know, after 2.5 months, it wasn't bad. However, you know, the ugly cycles on it didn't fully stop, I would say, until about you know, 4 months, 4.5 months in. You know, I still had a little bit of the, you know, hair algae on it. And so once I removed that hair algae though, it burned itself out and that was it. So it was just sitting there. Just the only thing that was growing in there was you know, the red cyanobacteria was the main thing, and then just the coralline algae on it, but really slow amount of coralline algae on it. So I got that one piece right here, I got the other piece right there, and it's a real small amount of coralline algae growth on it. And there's a third piece right there, and then I got the other 3 pieces there in the back. This was the mound parietes. If you saw my videos and remembered, it was kind of weird because the whole live rock was in fact live parietes on there. So it would have been nice if they would have shipped that parietes under water. It probably would have made it like my other parietes over here in the Christmas tree worm rock. And so but anyway, it was like that. Boom, I let it die and cure, and there it is. And then the piece next to it is the only piece that had, well, a whole bunch of coralline algae growing on it. So there it is, but it's definitely a slow growth on it. So I don't know, guys, there's something magical about live rock, and I don't know, you know, most likely it's just the natural ocean bacterial mix that you get straight from the ocean, and a lot of the, you know, has, but people are saying, you know, well, it has, you know, the good and the bad, you know, well, no, you get everything on there, but I think it's just and you get a lot of the uglies on there as well, you know, guarantees you're getting the good with the bad, double-edged sword. But that's not, I believe it's just something magical. I believe that we don't completely understand it. I believe it's really hard to understand. I believe that it's just like, you know, and I also believe it's not just, okay, we got to keep it dark and it's all just about the bacteria. I believe actually the lighting on it has more of an important effect as far as getting the rock through the ugly stages and have it ready to go. See, because when you put it, if you want it to be all dark and then you put it under the light, then you're going to go through the ugly phases. So if you want to go through the ugly phases beforehand, it makes sense if you're quarantining your live rock under light. Then it can go through all of that already, and then it's ready to go. Boom, you put it in your aquarium, and So I believe, and even if you have, like I've had a rock, down in the sump and crushed coral and everything you put down there, you think it's all cycled and everything, you put it up under the light and then you got to go through the straight ugly phases again and everything. So it seems like putting it under the light is just one of another huge factors that you don't consider, that is just something that happens magically with the live rock, with putting it in the aquarium with all of the algae and all of the bacteria from the ocean. It cycles, boom, it actually produces a bunch of nitrates and phosphates, which can be a good thing. Detritus, everything good thing, as far as establishing and maturing your aquarium into a mature aquarium. So I think it's something that's understated, magical, and just cannot be overestimated. I think it's something that's, has been developed, I believe, in Germany back in, as they were developing the Berlin method, I think it was just the whole community there, the country had developed it, and so it can't be, in the whole craze of live rock, back when I first started the aquarium scene, it was back in, in the 1990, 1989, it was live rock, and it was, how magical it was. And so I think that was just, and I believe it just came out of Germany, and from the, Europe and the progress they were making on reef aquariums, just the anecdotal evidence, of experimenting, and playing with the first live rocks and the first corals in aquariums like that, and just the success that they had and the method that they had developed in doing that cannot be overestimated and understated. So that's my opinion. That's my 2 cents on that one, right, Yellow Tang? So that's it. We got the Australian live rock in the system right here, and definitely was expensive. It was just $200 for just 2 large pieces there. So to do my aquarium, it would have been. This is a 5 foot by 2 feet deep, right? So 14 inches tall, and I did the real reef rock. So I estimated it probably would have cost at least a couple thousand more to have done it in all live rock, but I definitely wish I would have did that, even if I would have had to have gone with the Caribbean live rock. Definitely not a fan of the Caribbean live rock in comparison to the Pacific live rock. However, that said, definitely would have much preferred good quality, Caribbean live rock. One of the things that I don't like about specifically the Caribbean live rock is the aptasia and everything, but that's just the way it is. You're gonna get aptasia sooner or later, no matter what anyway, just about. So it's not like you're better off. There's much more pluses going with even the Caribbean live rock. Ideally, depends on how much growth has it on there. They have different types. Even the type that doesn't have a whole bunch of life on it. That those would be just light years beyond the dry rock. Definitely would prefer the Caribbean live rock over any of this dry rock nonsense. It's just such a hassle, such a waste of time, and just going through all of the pain, dinoflagellates, just nightmare after nightmare after nightmare, when you could just boom, get it going. And so, and the thing is too about the whole thing is you want to get it going get the coralline algae going on it. So really we don't want live rock. What I want is coralline algae rock, ideally. So ideally I would want Pacific or even the Caribbean stuff shipped in water, so I can get all of the coralline algae ready to go. I want all of the life on there. I want corals on there, the sponges and things and that. I want to get them myself and take them off myself if needed. So if I think that something's gonna die off, like a whole bunch of nasty sponge, a whole bunch of algae and stuff, I can take that off manually myself. I want fresh live rock straight from the ocean, covered with 100% coralline algae and ready to go. So there is the little pretty good little videos by Keith. What is it? Ryan Batchelor over there at the Bulk Reef Supply, and has his interesting series. BRS Investigates, talking about all his different live rock experiments and going through the ugly phases. It's kind of interesting. Check it out. And he has the aqua biomics on there, where he's doing these different tests on the aqua, determining what the different biomes of the different, supposedly how well these rocks are maturing, and how well the biome, or the bacteria and other microfauna is populating the rocks. And so they're doing these tests on taking samples from the aquariums, and they're sending it to this company, Aqua Biomics, and they're doing the tests on it, and they're coming up with factors, saying how diverse and how well the bacterial population has populated the aquarium. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. However, definitely a couple steps further would be to continue those experiments, such that you have you continue it and see how well the coralline algae is able to populate those rocks, and then in different setup situations. And then the next thing to do would be, okay, now how long is it going to take for the corals to get established in these aquariums? So that would be the next thing to do. Okay, well, it takes this type of aquarium, this type of rock, it takes this long for the coralline algae to get established, and it takes this long, or these didn't work out when you tried to add the coral. So how long did it take to get it established? How well did it do? So anyway, that's just my 2 cents on that one. And let's check out the clams really quick. Doing okay over here. Here's the Porites. So definitely would have preferred that Australian live rock to have been in water and just had the straight Porites like this, boom, ready to go. So alright, so let's check out Acanthophilia over here, dying and dead, just will not open up. But let's check it out. Gotta be, hopefully it'll bounce back. Got my fingers crossed. Got the goniopores over here. I moved the rocks around right there. I took those flat rocks out and cut them down and put them down into the coral scrubber. So let's just see here. The coral scrubber. I got the light off on that one. Alright, so let's check out the coral quarantine system over here. Everything's looking pretty good. And yeah, so I guess that's it, guys. Move that. There's a shot of the Porites right there. Definitely wish would have had the Australian live rock in the water. Getting ready to move these guys. This will be the first piece to move over into the main display, but I want to be moving over as much as I can on there. Alright guys, well, happy reefing. Check you on the next one. Bye.